Welcome to new Teen CGC 9.8 video. So finally today I'm getting around to doing a completed sales and pricing video, and I think it's been about 2 weeks at this point since we did our last one. Kind of a great day to do it too, because there were a lot of really awesome CGC 9.8 key issue auctions that ended last night. So yeah, a lot of really cool issues to go through and great prices and, you know, more information. I always say kind of staying on top of these prices. I usually try to do these every week, but missed last week. But staying on top of the prices every week, going to give you a really good idea of the fair prices for all the key issues that you want in the CGC 9.8, the comic book, so you don't overpay. And so yeah, I think kind of going over the prices is important. Got a full list of CGC 9.8 comics to go through today. All the prices are in US dollars. I'll have a list in the description below. And really quickly, I would invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Yeah, click the bell, get all our latest notifications, add me on Instagram, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you on Instagram. And still at the early stages of the channel, right? So I want to get all the subs we can get, hopefully get to 1,000 as soon as we can. That would be like, yeah, amazing. Just to even say that we're kind of closing in on that is awesome. So, okay, full list today. Obviously brought out some sweet keys, and talking with a couple people on the team through Instagram. Todd McFarlane books are pretty hot right now, I think, with kind of the signature series thing going on, and some of the prices, especially in the more obvious McFarlane books. So, yeah, let's get right into it. First book, though, Amazing Spider-Man number 529. This is the first new Spider-Man costume, or the Iron Spider costume. So one of these had sold last night. It was, I believe, this one, $78 in an auction. And, you know, I've heard of, you know, people grabbing this for $75 with, you know, cheap shipping. So I think that's like a fair price. You know, in an auction, probably not the best price. And, you know, I think around Christmas time, you know, people maybe tend to have a little bit more money. And this was from a common seller to a really good seller on eBay. So, you know, $78 I would say is a fair price for that book. Next book, Superman Man of Steel number 18, first full Doomsday. Don't do too many Superman books on the channel, to be honest, and I prefer Batman for DC almost exclusively. Like me some Green Lantern too as well, but not the biggest Superman fan of, you know, the comic books, although, you know, they are just great comic book history, I would say. But this one, a classic 90s book, went for $62, first full Doomsday. Really cool cover, Superman Man of Steel 18, went for $62 in an auction. And I think for that, yeah, that's a kind of fair to really good price. Every now and then, yeah, CGC 9.8, one of those might go closer to 100 in a buy it now. Next one, Amazing Spider-Man 361, Newsstand. So I actually have this issue in the Newsstand. So this is the exact one that went yesterday. I had paid $405-ish for mine. I think it was $407 maybe. So one sold last night, I believe it was, for $373. And, you know, this one, the Newsstand last night that had sold, there was pretty much the bar along the side of the back cover, which is kind of like a light brown. So it wasn't perfectly centered. And so I think that's a fair price, you know, $373, the one went for last night. Not perfectly centered, I would say. I think it's a fair price. You know, you don't get the back cover on my issue, and, you know, a really good centered one, no pages sticking up the side or anything. Just a really, like, visually awesome issue. I kind of lucked out on this one, but paying over $400, and those are kind of some of the details in the CGC 9.8s that you deal with, especially on and I am like you know, the example of paying up for a perfectly centered issue over like a CGC 9.8 of the exact same book that's not perfectly centered. Like, you know, I'm that guy paying like 10 or 20% more for the perfectly centered one. I don't know, it kind of annoys me, and I do like a perfectly centered CGC 9.8. So yeah, fair price for Amazing Spider-Man 361, first full appearance of Carnage, $373. Ultimate Fallout 4, next book, is first appearance of Miles Morales, new Spider-Man. 2 of them sold. One for $364 and one for $390. And I had said that this one has kind of been dipping down to $350 and below, whereas before it was really sticking around $400 quite easily, and every now and then, and quite often would go over $400. So $364, $390. I grabbed mine for like $354 about a month ago now. So I think if you can grab that one closer to $300, like that would be a good buy if you want a first of Miles Morales. And I think it's a pretty good, for modern books, pretty great investment grade book, to be honest. Next book is a Detective 576, but one that I have, but not just any Detective 576. This one saw one, a Canadian price variant of this book going in auction, and it sold for $745, and it was a one of one. So this was literally the only CGC 9.8 in the world. So this is Todd McFarlane's first Batman work, basically. And not as dramatic as like a Batman 423, but still a pretty cool cover. So I this one was like $120, I believe I grabbed it for, maybe even less. So the Canadian price variant going for $745, but there only is one CGC 9.8. That's what it said in the listing. So yeah, and my thought on Canadian price variants is, I think I'd just rather stick to a normal CGC 9.8 and buy it for like way less price and still get the same feeling of like having the first McFarlane Batman, and like I really wanted this book. So rather than, maybe if you're really serious and you just had the money to throw around, that would be something good, but I don't want to throw around too much money yet like that. So next book is a classic book. I should have brought one out. It was an Incredible Hulk 340. Two of them sold over the weekend. It was $425 and $430. And these were two nice looking ones. Oftentimes I've said for this issue, it's more important to be centered because the signatures are right along the spine. So if the spine kind of curls around to the back cover, you don't get the signatures kind of perfect on the cover. So these two are looking quite good, and they did go over 400, which I've said in the past, a really good looking centered one usually goes over 400 in auctions. 425, 430. So I ended up grabbing one of these, actually, the $425 one. I ended up grabbing, and actually someone on the team out there grabbed the $430 one, which I thought was just really cool. Messaging through Instagram had let me know. So yeah, we kind of swept the Incredible Hulk 340s over the weekend, Team CGC sweep. So yeah, this is my fourth CGC 9.8 Incredible Hulk 340. This one very nicely centered, very nice colors, signatures prominent, a perfect one basically. I couldn't resist. Next book, we'll move on here. Amazing Spider-Man 431 sold one over the weekend. Talked about this one, Cosmic Carnage. Two of them actually sold. I think one was picked up maybe after they lost the auction or something like that. But one went for $182.49 in an auction, and then one went for $199.99. Buy it now. And I grabbed mine for $150 like 3 months ago. So that's kind of looking good, I guess, with those two sales. Next book is a Batman 436. This is kind of an underfollowed book that I've kind of periodically mentioned and recommended throughout videos. It's first Tim Drake. So first appearance of Tim Drake, Batman 436. This one in a CBCS 9.8 sold for $99.99. And I saw this in a CGC 9.8 go for, it was like 80 something in an auction. And I think that's pretty much rock bottom. It's a year 3 part 1. So, first appearance of Tim Drake. Certainly, he retells the origin of Dick Grayson as well. Just a cover that grows on you, too. Kind of a montage, collage type of cover. But, and you know what? I love Batman of this era. And this is one I didn't have, but I purchased this one. It was in Canada, and it was a decent price. So, yeah, I just wanted to add this one. First, Tim Drake. There seems to be a lot of, like, animated movies and things of Tim Drake. So, I think his character is quite iconic throughout Batman and has potential to be in movies and things like that. So first ever Tim Drake for, this looked really good too. That was another thing. CBCS 9.8 looking better than a lot of CGC 9.8. Perfectly centered, no pages out the side. I could tell it was really high grade, so I jumped on it for 100. Okay, next book, Batman 423. Should have brought out mine too. I could have brought out a lot of books. There were a lot of classic books that I really like that sold in the past couple days. So two of them sold. One was $404 and one was $406.55. And yeah, the one that went for $406.55 was quite perfectly centered, I would say. No pages sticking out the side. Colors weren't super vivid, but nice. And then the 404 one, it wasn't, I think, looking perfect, more so, but still went for 404. So, yeah, these books, you know, I've saw Batman 423s go for like 350, 356, 362 kind of thing, you know, in an auction. So getting over 4, and I was talking about that McFarlane signing, how some of the McFarlane books are pretty heat up. The next book is an Amazing Spider-Man 316. So this is a book that, I don't know, this is a weird thing, something weird that happened. I think what happened was these auctions were all from kind of one seller, and they had a lot of McFarlane books, so I think it was bringing in sort of, for lack of a better word, like a lot of noobs. And if you're kind of a noob McFarlane collector, or like brand new to CGC 9.8, this is kind of a book that is like totally viable for a person like that. So I think this happened last night where one of these sold for $330 in an auction. So a direct version like this one, you know, I'm lucky to have a great one. You know, this one's really nicely centered too. I bought this one off of eBay too, and came back at 9.8 when I got it graded, which was great. And yeah, a nice perfectly centered one. This one was, you know, pretty, I think it was nicely centered as well. Yeah, it was certainly a nice copy. But for $330, I saw a couple sell for like $225. So this was a book that for a while there, it always stood around about $275, $280. I would see a lot sell in that. But recently with Spider-Man correcting, I feel like we talked about that a little bit. Some of the Spidey books kind of get in a bit of a lull. This book had come down. I saw a couple go for like $225, $220. I think maybe even $200. One might have slipped through. I think someone told me. And now to see, you know, whether it's people had Christmas money and now the Todd McFarlane signing, more people are talking about it. I don't know, but see one go for $330 in an auction, I think is kind of a good idea of like a bidding war probably just broke out, and there were a couple noobs in that bidding war that have no idea about the price history of this book, because yeah, on our pricing videos, a lot of these books sell for like $260, $250, $260 in the last like 6 months. Many of these have sold CGC 9.8s. Next book is a X-Men 53. First Onslaught. I had mentioned in our video of Under the Radar books that I grabbed a CBCS 9.8 for $139.99. So that's this one here. CBCS 9. So I got 2 CBCS 9.8 books, plus a new Incredible Hulk 340 coming. So watch out for those unbox videos soon. But yeah, X-Men 53, First Onslaught, cool, underrated villain. You know, he kind of looks like Apocalypse and Doomsday sort of in one, but apparently he becomes Professor X throughout the story. And it's a bit of like a long type of convoluted origin, but yeah, very like underfollowed X-Men 90s book. If you like bright colors and awesome, you know, 90s covers, this is one of the best. X-Men 53. Next book is a book I got that had sold last in a couple days here. Amazing Spider-Man 607, the classic J. Scott Campbell Black Cat pinup cover. This is my favorite J. Scott Campbell Black Cat cover, for sure, or the original one, for sure, and so kind of my favorite because it's the original, but 168.01, one of these sold in an auction, Amazing Spider-Man 607. Next book, Amazing Spider-Man 344, First Cletus Cassidy, and this is a one I don't have, and, you know, I'd probably just recommend personally to just put your money toward, like, another Amazing Spider-Man 361 if you, like, you know, felt like you wanted this book over this book for some reason. But one of these had sold in an auction in the last couple days, $157.50 for First Cletus Cassidy. A Savage She-Hulk #1, first origin and first appearance of She-Hulk. One of these sold for $445. So this is a book that was kind of going for $350, and then those announcements of a Disney Plus series shot it up to $550, and now kind of going for in between. So that's good that, you know, it's settling down at a higher price than the $350, which is kind of what you would hope for, you know, if you get a big pop off a movie and you have a bunch of Savage She-Hulk #1s. If you know, someone out there did, that would have been great. If you were picking them up for like $300 to $350. Yeah, so one went for $445 last week. A really kind of iconic book went last in the last week here. CGC 9.8 Swamp Thing #1. It's the origin of Swamp Thing, and probably the coolest Swamp Thing cover. Obviously, like, his first appearance is like such a classic cover too. But one of these in the CGC 9.8 white pages, great looking copy in a new case, sold for $2,738.88. And yeah, I think that's a 1972 book, so yeah, in the CGC 9.8, that's rare, and the price shows that for sure. This is a book that's a good example of, I think, a lot of books that have slowed down and have definitely cooled off and corrected harder, I think, than the sort of average comic book, I would say. All New Wolverine #2, First Gabby Honey Badger. One of these sold for $91 in an auction. And I remember a lot of these kind of selling for like $175 to $200, sort of just off the back of like female superheroes being the coolest thing ever. And I think, you know, and that kind of started to blow up with Suicide Squad like 5 years ago now with Harley Quinn in that movie. Batman Adventures blew up, and then everyone started thinking about all the other female superheroes, and really shot those up in value. This book included, even though it's kind of a newer book, but I think now it's cooled off, and, you know, $91 in an auction, I think is a great price, actually. So, you know, this is kind of one that's buyable, I think, now, because, yeah, these type of books, I think, have corrected harder. These books, you know, obvious female superheroes, along with, like, Spider-Man books, because of the constant just back-to-back-to-back movies, plus he was in Avengers Endgame, so just tons of Spider-Man promotion that has been out in the last year. That's kind of lulling off too. But yeah, All New Wolverine #2, First Gabby Honey Badger for $91, not bad. Web of Spider-Man #1, First Volturons. One of these went for $85 in the CGC 9.8. Kind of a cool black costume cover, but not really one I've looked to grab, but kind of cool nonetheless. Ghost Rider version 2 #1. This is a pretty neat key to have. One had sold in an auction. It was for $167.50. It's the first like Dan Ketch as Ghost Rider. So you get a first appearance in there. It's a 1990s book. Pretty classic, you know, Ghost Rider cover. You'll know it to see it for sure. Yeah, Ghost Rider version 2 #1 for $167.50. I think that's a pretty good deal, actually. Next book is one I could have brought it out. I grabbed it just a couple weeks ago. Batman 357, the first full Killer Croc, first Jason Todd, and a classic Batman key of the 80s, 1983 book. So one sold, I think it was yesterday, for $458. And I mentioned when I grabbed mine, it was a really good price, and I grabbed it for $417, I think it was. I didn't write that down, but it was like $415 or $417 or something. This one going for $458 is sort of more near the price where I expected to pay, but somehow I got a deal. And this one was not nearly as nice as the one that I got. It was not centered correctly. You know, kind of had half of the back cover at the bottom, and then, you know, because it was off-centered a bit, some of the pages sticking outside. Mine is like perfectly centered. It's no pages sticking outside, perfectly flat, perfectly centered. It's like a pristine copy, so lucked out. But still, you know, Batman 357, a really cool Batman key for $458. Not bad of a price. I would say that's a fair price. And another book that I got too that I probably could have brought out too, but it was a Batman 428. This is the main key in the Death in the Family series where Jason Todd dies, Robin, Death of Robin. This key issue, Batman 428. One of those went in an auction for $295, and yeah, I would say that's this book you don't see too much. And I know I ended up kind of overpaying for mine. I paid close to $400 for mine. I remember that, and it was in an auction too. And it was a book that I've been looking for quite a while, and I never saw it. So when it popped up, I was just kind of ready to maybe pay $50 more than I should. So. Probably ended up paying $100 more than I should have, though. But that's okay. I'm so happy to have that one. Yeah, it's a really nice copy, too. I think a lot of times I overpay, too, because it's just perfectly centered, perfect, you know, everything looks really good, so it's like, I just want it. All right, that's the full list, though, of all the prices. Yeah, and I think a lot of really, you know, key issues that I really kind of recommend and like sold. in the past week. So a lot of great prices. And yeah, McFarlane books kind of heating up, but even I couldn't help myself to grab that Incredible Hulk 340 perfectly centered. You know, for what was it, $4.25? Yeah, $4.25. And you know, saw those sell for $3.50, but not perfectly centered. You know, this one was looking really good. I was very happy to kind of pay an extra kind of $20 basically, or $25 to just get a pristine one, pretty much. All right, if you haven't already, I'd invite you to join the team and subscribe to Team CGC 9.8. Hit the bell, get all our latest notifications. And yeah, I'd love to have you on our comic book collecting team, and just at the early stages of the channel, trying to get all the subs we can get and get to 1,000 subscribers as quick as we can. But yeah, great prices today. And so thank you very much for watching. And certainly I've got the list in the description below if you want to see kind of a snapshot of the prices. But yeah, always love to stay on top of these prices. And yeah, it's been kind of 2 weeks since I did one of these videos, so hopefully we'll get back on track and try to do them every week. But I think every now and then it does kind of make sense to delay these price videos if I feel like I got a lot of ideas on like other types of videos. So, you know, we'll kind of throw these in at least for sure once every 2 weeks though, because yeah, I love staying on top of the prices. Thank you very much for watching today though. I'll see you on the next video.